Hey, this is Matt from Matt Development. Welcome back to the Developer Diary for Train Game. This is part 3. The focus for this last chunk of work has really been building a vertical slice of the first couple of hours of gameplay. And by vertical slice I mean a short chunk of gameplay that's a good representation of the final product. So the first big change in that direction is playing around with some basic environments. I've got a nice little crackling fire, and I've started adding in some variation to the height of the terrain, and as well as some various kinds of trees, and playing around with some low poly trees here, as well as some more detailed models. Continuing to build the environment into the future, it's really going to depend on what kind of narrative is going to exist in this vertical slice. So I think as I get closer and closer to something that is actually playable, I'm going to continually come up against the need to start establishing a narrative to really let me make the design decisions that I need to. And so that's a big kind of post marker on the road ahead is getting started on that narrative somehow. The next big change is the classic survival systems of health, thirst, and hunger. I've added in a bar for each of them down the bottom left, and they work exactly pretty much as you'd expect them to. Once I had the thirst and hunger draining, I now needed a way to fill them back up again. So I've added in a way to interact with items in your inventory, just a primary action that depends on the item type. I also hooked up a button prompt system so that the prompt at the bottom of the menu is correct whether you're on a keyboard or on a controller. The next big change in service of the first hour of gameplay was thinking about what kind of carriages the player would start off with. So with that in mind, I've created what I'm calling a starter carriage. The starter carriage currently has a bed, some inventory space, and a workbench. The workbench is really the key feature here, as it's how you'll do the crafting of this crafting survival game. So I've added a crafting menu, and the crafting works exactly how you would expect it to. Each recipe has some number of inputs which are required, and you get some number of outputs. Currently the crafting is instantaneous, but it'd be nice to have some animation or some way of giving a bit more weight to getting some crafting done, because crafting is really a big part of the whole progression in this game. So that's it in terms of features for this dev diary. Up next, I'll be continuing to push in this direction of creating a vertical slice, or the first hour of gameplay. And I've got 3 big things on my to-do list. The first is death or game over, some kind of consequence for failing to survive. Another is a way of creating food and sustainably getting food, perhaps a farming carriage or something. And finally, I'm thinking about what is going to keep driving the story forward, at least initially. And I'm thinking about perhaps a long-range radio by which you can receive quests or missions, ways to help out local settlements or towns. So that's it for now, and I hope to see you on the next one.